Welcome to Literature Time. This is my first video and I was much impressed by Virginia Woolf's seminal essay Mr. Bennett and Mrs. Brown, where Woolf's wit and audacity spills all over the pages. Here you have a short biography of Virginia Woolf. Her original name was Adeline Virginia Stephen, and she was born on 1882 and died on 1941. She is a daughter of a prominent literary figure, Leslie Stephen, and married to a literary figure, Leonard Woolf. Now, here you have a composition and publication of the essay. It was first published in 1924 by Hogarth Press. In the same year, it was published in the Criterion, a journal edited by T.S. Eliot. It was originally titled as Character in Fiction. It is considered to be the manifesto of modernism. It is in fact an response to Arnold Bennett's accusation on Georgian novelists. This is the two generation of writers that Virginia Woolf gives in this essay. The Edwardians of the previous era, H.G. Wells, John Galsworthy and Arnold Bennett, and the Georgian novelist consist of a group of writers. You can see on the screen that includes Virginia Woolf herself. Next, we have the accusation. What was the accusation of Arnold Bennett? He claims that Georgian novelists failed to create real and convincing characters. Woolf partially accepts Bennett's claim that character making is so significant in any successful novel. But she also suggests to find the origin of the crisis. She produces two statements. Number one says, everyone is a judge of character. We all do character reading. Perspective differs from one person to another according to the age in which he lives in, the country he come up from, and personality or attitude of the writer. Number two, now Woolf proclaims the very important, I quote, human character changed in or about December 1910. Woolf juxtaposes her second statement with sufficient reasons. Number one is artistic revolution that emerged into the society when Roger Fry held his exhibition about the post-impressionistic approach towards literature, which heralded, announced the beginning of new style of abstract art that drifted away from so-called reality of Edwardians. The new way of writing emerged with Samuel Butler's The Way of All Flesh, and George Bernard Shaw's writing continues to record its growth. All human relationship has undergone a tremendous shift. May it be the bond between master and servant, male or female, parents to children, husband and wife, etc. Now, the art of character making is an observation rather than description. Woolf also advises Arnold Bennett and his fellow novelists to shed away the materialistic perspective. Now, Woolf tells a story to understand, to make us comprehend the merit of being true. She describes the real life incident journey from Richmond to Waterloo a couple of weeks ago. Woolf caught a train very late at night. When she enters into the compartment, she felt like she is interrupting a conversation between two people. It was an old woman who is around 60 years of age, and she assumes her name as Mrs. Brown. She appears very tiny with extreme tidiness, though she seems to be so poor and in suffering. How would Woolf write about this real life character in her writing? That is what she thinks. She would analyze the reason for her sadness first. She may be an abandoned widow. There is no one to support and take care of her. Maybe she is very anxious of her harried life. That there might be a son for her who turns into immoral side. That is what worries Mrs. Brown much. The another character that Woolf meets on the train is a man about 40 years of age. She assumes his name as Mr. Smith. When she talks about his appearance, he is clad in blue suit with a pocket knife. He had a silk handkerchief, also had a stout leather bag. Maybe he is a businessman for a trade tour. He looks so big and less refined. Thus, she comes to a conclusion that he is no relation to Mrs. Brown. He seems to be indulging in an unpleasant business to be settled down with Mrs. Brown. Woolf now provides the point to substantiate her first statement that perspective changes from one person to another person according to his own personality and the collective personality of the society he is from. Virginia Woolf assumes that if the same situation, the same train incident was taken into a novel, then it would turn into three different types of stories. For example, when the English writer does to depict the incident, then he would write about Mrs. Brown's physical appearance and mannerisms. Only the personality dominate in English writing. Next, we move on to the French writer. If the same incident was taken into a novel format by the French writer, then there will not be a space for individualness. Usually, French writers use generalization technique when portraying the human nature. Then the novel would turn up into an abstract, equally proportioned, harmonious whole. Then Virginia Woolf attacks the Russian way of writing, which majorly focuses on the soul and soul alone. She goes further on to justify her point by stating she does not like the world famous character Sherlock Holmes, whom she cannot consider as a real character. It is evident that a character seems real to one person and may not be to another. We have a list of novels that are believed to be having real and convincing characters. Virginia Woolf states that they cannot make believable characters because they don't have any great mentors of the previous era to guide them in producing real characters. Though the Georgian novelists admire their predecessors, Virginia Woolf agrees it is absurd to ask Wells, Galsworthy, and Arnold Bennett the art of character making. Now Woolf strongly attacks these Edwardians as just bootmakers, they don't know about watchmaking. Thus, symbolically, she says that they themselves, the Edwardians themselves, don't know the art of character making, thus, their novels filled with incompleteness and dissatisfaction. Virginia Woolf is not ready to leave the train incident. Now it is H.G. Wells' turn to replicate the incident into his novel. Instead of looking at this uneducated, poorly dressed, tiny little old woman, he would rather think the scenery outside the window panel is more interesting and adventurous. There will not be Mrs. Brown at all, rather, we can only find the libraries, fanciful dining halls, and marriages. The place where the people are only very generous, candid, manly, and magnificent. When Galsworthy take up the task, he could only see the walls of Duncan factory, women tirelessly working there, and employees smoking rich cigars. He would only portray people with indignation and stuffed with information. He would rather see Mrs. Brown as an old broken pot that deserves to be thrown to the corner. Mr. Bennett would have given intense care to notice the advertisements, pictures of the great cities of England. He would have skimmed Mrs. Brown to analyze her social status and come to a conclusion that she is not rich enough to offer a motor car, and his mind will be flooded with materialistic ideas. Woolf also goes on to explain Hilda Hesway, one of Bennett's character. Woolf wonders how could Hilda be a real character? Hilda is much concerned about the houses and villas of her own and the neighbors. Bennett only takes us a tour to his imaginary and fanciful houses than the characters. As a conclusion, Virginia Woolf states that there is a need for new techniques of novel writing. The Georgians wanted the new tools as the old conventions are dead. She also proposes that the gap between the writer and unknown reader should be filled with familiarity and imagination. There is a reason for the decay of morality in 20th century. Virginia Woolf states that there is no writer to impose the code of manners in the previous era. Even the adult writers seem to be more courageous, but they don't have the proper knowledge to use the content. Though Joyce and Eliot had produced some indecency and obscurity in their works, they are very conscious and calculative. The cover page of the essay deserves a mention because it was done by Vanessa Bell, Woolf's own sister, in which you can see the modern appearance of a girl. Finally, we have come to the end of the video. I feel really sorry for such an amateur editing. Hopefully, I will upload better videos in future. Please do support and encourage me by clicking the like button if you really do, and drop your comments below. Thank you for watching. Let us shine together. See you in my next video.